Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com. And joining me today is Kearny Police Detective John Fabula. John's been a detective for a couple of years now, and he's been on the force even longer than that. He is as good a detective as you're going to find, and he has been dealing with scams, unfortunately, that residents have been facing, and he's agreed to join me today to discuss some of those scams, and we're very grateful for that. So, John, thank you for doing this. How's it going, brother?
It's going very good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Appreciate this very much. I watch scammers every day on YouTube, and that's a blessing and a curse because I see so much of this, but I can't even begin to imagine what you as a detective must see from scammers and what they try to do to unsuspecting people. So let's talk about it. You mentioned to me Zelly rental scams have become a big deal. Can you explain that and what that's all about and how people go about doing this?
Yeah, so what we're seeing a big increase is people seeking out apartments on Facebook Marketplace. They see a deal that, it's too good to be true. The rent's really low. It's in a good neighborhood. They reach out to the poster on Facebook, and then it just it gets right into the scams. So they get convinced that this apartment is the real deal. They're given a rental application. It's usually something really informal, like a Google Doc form. This person goes ahead, they fill out all their personal identifying information in this Google Doc. They're convinced to send a $50 application fee through Zelle. They get into texting with the poster. They're given a different phone number. They're kind of bounced around a little bit, but it turns out that they'll be asked to send another Zelle transfer to another account for the first and last month's rent. And then, after 2 weeks, they're ignored by the poster, and they realize they were scammed. And we're 2 weeks behind being able to trace where that money went. And it's all too common now with the Facebook Marketplace rentals.
So are they, when they're asking for these deposits, they're doing this sight unseen, right? They obviously, since the person on the other end is a scammer, these people aren't going to be able to see what the apartment looks like other than photos that they may get off of somebody else's page or NJMLS or something like that, correct?
Right. Yep. So these listing photos are just being, scraped off of an MLS posting. A lot of times it's somebody's home that they don't realize is being listed for rent. Sometimes people will come knocking on the door and saying, "Hey, I'm here, to look at the apartment," and then they realize, like, "Hey, my house isn't for rent." They contact us, and sometimes we get notified that way too.
What would you say about that? Is it important if you're a renter and somebody says of any kind, send me a deposit before you've seen the apartment? Is that a red flag right there, like where you stop it right there and say you're not getting a penny from me until I see it first?
Well, why I think it works and why they're able to get that first and last month deposit is because they start small. They start with the $50 application fee, so they get you comfortable sending the $50, and then you're still in contact with them. And now that you've committed a little bit of money, you've convinced yourself a little bit that this is legitimate, and now that next payment becomes easier to do, and then the next payment becomes easier to do. And after they've got a couple of payments out of you, then it's the rug pull. They disappear. And then that's when we're getting contacted.
What if somebody has been a victim of this? What's the best next step once they realize they've been scammed? And I guess we could apply this to all scams too.
Yeah, so just contacting the police department as soon as they can, saving all conversations, all those phone numbers that you were contacted, that you were referred to. Those are important to keep. All those Facebook messenger messages back and forth with the posters important. A lot of people don't realize when you're talking to John Smith on Facebook that John Smith, that's a vanity name, we call it. So you can change that name on Facebook. You can change that display name over and over again, but that URL is not going to be able to be changed. So it's important to kind of go through that person's profile and find that URL, take a screenshot and be able to get that to us, because we can't go to Facebook and say, give me all the information on John Smith. They're going to want that URL, and a lot of times, by the time this kind of scam progresses, they may delete their profile or change it completely, and then we can't find it. So as soon as you realize that you've been scammed, you're going to want to find that Facebook URL, that unique URL, for us to be able to follow up and figure out like who exactly you were talking to.
Now, is finding them difficult? Because a lot of the ones that I've seen, and you correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of times they use phone numbers that come from these VoIP apps, so they're not landline phones or cell phones. Like, do you come across that a lot when you're investigating these crimes?
Yeah, sure. You'll see a lot of like voice over IP phone numbers, Google Voice. I mean, it's the same type of deal. But that's a lot of what's going to be, is because most of these scammers are operating overseas, so they're not going to have that T-Mobile or that Verizon phone number. They're going to be using an online service.
So now I was going to ask you this, but I wasn't sure. I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but a lot of times, you kind of mentioned it, these scammers aren't even in the country, right? So does that make it a greater challenge to try to prosecute these guys who do this?
So yes, prosecution is going to be tough in a lot of cases, but there are these scams are layered, right? So if I can give you an example, just had a Facebook rental scam. Someone, they thought they had an apartment somewhere on I believe it was like Elm Street, sent the application fee, filled out the application, sent all the money. So we start tracing it, and we can tell where those initial, I think it was Cash App transactions went to. And it was a real person in the United States.
Sure.
And you reach out to that person, and they were under the impression that they were helping their overseas military boyfriend who needed help because his bank account was compromised. So, there are, for lack of a better term, these money mules that get scammed in another type of scam, a romance scam or, confidence scam. They become kind of like a cog in the machine.
Sure.
So our goal may not necessarily be to prosecute the person at the end, but try to follow that money as fast as we can and catch it before it leaves the country. So try to recover.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
How cooperative are apps like Cash App and PayPal in recovering money? Do they cooperate, or does it depend on which app it is? Or
well, as far as getting to the money, I think any service in the United States is going to be cooperative with a court order. So if we can get to it and we could find it, if it's parked there long enough, we can go through legal routes to recover as much of the money as we can. A lot of times you get these situations where amounts get siphoned off. Like say you start with 1,000 and 800 gets transferred here, 200 gets transferred here, and then the second hop it's 6 and 2, and it kind of just all gets split up. So it's time is of the essence. So once you realize that you've lost some money to a scam, it's very important to get all the information that you have and get to law enforcement as fast as you can.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Detective John Fabula from the Kearny Police Department. And John, a couple of years ago, I walked into Midland Dairy, and I went to take some money out of my checking account, and I noticed that the ATM machine there said that I could buy Bitcoin. And when we were discussing this ahead of time, you told me that there are Bitcoin machines that are being used in scams. Can we kind of transition into that? Tell me how that's working.
Yeah, so there's a number of different scams, and this works the same way for Bitcoin ATM machines. It'll work for gift cards. It could be any number of scams. You can get a cold call at home saying that they're from the utility and that your power is going to be shut off unless you pay your bill right away. And those kind of scams, they work on urgency and fear, and you will get a lot of reports that the people on the phone, the suspect calling just keeps kind of yelling at them and creating this urgency. And, next thing you know, they're convinced that, one thing or another, whether the power, the water, or whatever is going to be shut off unless they go make this cash deposit in a Bitcoin ATM as soon as possible. So the scammers will send a QR code, send them to a location where they know they're going to find this cryptocurrency ATM machine. And I say Bitcoin ATM, that's actually a brand. There's a couple of different companies that offer this service, but they walk into a convenience store or a gas station, they scan this QR code, and they just start feeding their savings into this machine. And once it's in there, it's transferred to Bitcoin. It's transferred to that the address that is on that QR code to the scammer, and then from there it's just hops and jumps and transfers, and it becomes our job to kind of follow that flow of funds to see if we can find an off ramp to see if we can collect that back.
Unbelievable. Let's say you're a 75-year-old woman and you get this call, right? If you can somehow remain calm, what are some of the signs that you're being scammed right off the bat when they ask you for a gift card or for cryptocurrency for paying a utility bill?
Well, I think if we can just express to people to, if you're listening or if you have family that an older family member, just to let them know that, just to kind of relax when you get one of these phone calls, or how we know we're being scammed.
Is there an accent maybe? Like, is the person calling going to sound foreign? Are they going to say that? Yeah, they're from.
We've seen that. We've seen that both ways. It's been clear that we've had people on the phone that have accents, but I don't think that's necessarily like a red flag, because a lot of the times we call a customer service rep for one of our companies and we're met with somebody with an accent. I don't think that would be too out of the ordinary. What I think should be the red flag is that sense of urgency, like that right now, if you don't do this X, Y, and Z, like your power is going to be cut off. Like they're going to send somebody, or they're threatening you with a warrant. I would just take a deep breath, maybe hang up the phone, see if they call back, call a family member, reach out to somebody and run it by them, just get like that second opinion. Because these Bitcoin transactions or these gift card transactions, they all work the same. And once you come back and you give them those card numbers, then it's the money's gone. It's as good as gone until we can kind of try to trace it down as fast as we can.
This is going to sound like a very basic question, but when does any utility ever ask for a gift card or Bitcoin or some kind of crypto to pay for a utility?
No, and I think that was the point I was looking for a second ago. Gift cards, if we just set up a couple rules and kind of talk to your family about this, gift cards are for gifts, right? They're not for making payments of any kind. Go to the store, you go to the Walgreens, the CVS, what have you. You're going to buy a gift card, you're going to put in a birthday card and give it to a family member. Anything other than that, there is no legitimate reason why you need to go get a gift card and give it to any service provider. They accept credit cards, they accept cash in person, checks. Gift cards are just not a form of payment for anything that I'm aware of. And as far as Bitcoin ATM machines, if you do not trade in crypto and you have no reason to anonymously purchase cryptocurrency, like don't even go anywhere near those machines. In town we have two of them. There's two convenience stores that have them, and there are very, very limited reasons why anyone would need to put cash into a cryptocurrency ATM machine. And I think the vast majority of our population does not meet that.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because I know that one location that I mentioned earlier, and I know the owner, Tony's a really nice guy, but is there really a point to having crypto coin machines in a convenience store? Would you, if you had your way, would you rather them not be there?
So I'm afraid to speak in definites because, someone may view this and come up with a reason why it may have its place. I can't think of any reason why we would need one in our community. So far we've had a lot of issues where people are sent to these types of machines to pay a PSE&G bill, and or they thought they had a virus on their computer, and they were told that they had to their bank account was compromised. They had to get all their money out of their bank account and secure it in Bitcoin. And once that person's convinced to do that, they've committed. They've gone. And once you make that first deposit, that second, third, fourth, and fifth deposits are a lot easier to do.
Right.
And then it just becomes a snowball. So they are a source of frustration for us. I have a tough time figuring out a use case why we would need one in our town, but There's plenty of places and ways to go and purchase cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's really necessary to have a machine to put cash in to turn into cryptocurrency that fast.
Got it. If you're just joining us, Detective John Fabula of the Kearny Police Department is with us today. We're talking about scams and how you can avoid being scammed, or what different types of scams exist. And a couple of weeks ago when we were preparing for this, you had mentioned to me something about mortgage scams. Now, tell me about that. That one surprised me completely.
Yeah, so these are the one of the scams where I mentioned, we don't see them very frequently, but when they do occur, they are going to be devastating. So obviously mortgages, you're dealing in high value transactions. So this is referred to as business email compromise. So you could be transacting back and forth between your lender, your real estate agent, your attorney, and then at some point, somebody sends wiring instructions to the other on, where money needs to go for a down payment, or, to get your equity back for a sale, or what have you. So what happens is there's somehow a spoofed email gets put into the mix, and it looks like your lender's or your attorney's email, but one character's changed, like an L is a 1 or whichever, and they say like, oh, there was a mistake, here's your new set of wiring instructions.
No.
And you think everything's legit, and you wire the money to these new wiring instructions, and 2 days later your lender or attorney says, hey, we need you to send that wire, and you say, oh, well, I did, and it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that are sent somewhere that shouldn't have been sent to. And now again, by the time we realize it, we're a couple days away from the event. So it's another challenge.
Have you seen any cases of these, or any of them, where the dollar value is just head scratching and you think, oh my God, somebody has lost that much money?
Yeah, we've seen, unfortunately, like complete life savings, hundreds of thousands of dollars in mortgage transactions. It does happen, and we've seen it locally too.
Oh God, I can't even imagine that. When you put your life into something and then you just wake up one day and it's all gone, right? But you did say that there are some recourses, right? I mean, it's not like all hope is lost if you happen to be the victim.
Yeah. So there's money does get found, money does get recovered. There are ways to track and trace this stuff down. And one of the things, aside from making your report with our police department, is making a report with on the website, the FBI's website, ic3.gov, as quickly as you can. So that is a system that tracks internet crime everywhere across the country, and there are people that monitor that. They look for patterns. They're able to kind of see who they should be concentrating on, which targets they should be looking at, and that's a great repository for that kind of information. So when we take our internet crime reports, it's our responsibility to investigate them, but we're also going to refer everybody to this ic3.gov to make their report on there too for tracking purposes, because there are teams that their job is to try to investigate these crimes on a larger scale, and we may have a teammate in those investigations by having the reports in both places.
Are they feds, John, or what? Where,
yeah, it's FBI.
FBI. Okay, good. Yeah. The last one that you told me about, I've started to see a little bit more on YouTube, and it's the pig butcher romance scammings. It's heartbreaking to think that there are people out there who fall for this crap, but it does seem like so many women tend to fall for this. Is that... Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about what it is, and do you see that it's more of the women being scammed in this type of situation?
So, I don't know that it would be more women than men. I've seen it locally, and I've been reading stories, nationwide, or it's a global issue. So that there's no real demographic on who is a victim more. But these are, again, it's another one of these devastating type scams, because it's a long game scam. It's anyone that's watching here has probably gotten one of these like innocuous text messages where it seems like it's like a wrong number. You get this text message with like this weird statement like, hey, when can we pick up the dresses for the ball? I think I just got one of those this week. And you're like, I know what it is. So sometimes I send a text message back just to see where it goes, and hey, sorry, you got the wrong number. And now they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, super apologetic, but they want to talk to you anyway. They want to be your friend. And sometimes if you're if you're needing some companionship at that time in your life and you start chatting back and forth with a stranger, it gets to a point where you start becoming comfortable. They start sending you pictures of themselves and you start feeling like this person. And this type of text message relationship, sometimes they'll transfer it into WhatsApp or another like encrypted application, so it's not easily traceable. But they'll speak to you for months, and it's like call centers. They're talking to 10, 15 marks or targets of theirs for months at a time, until they get to the point where they're comfortable enough to either ask them to start transferring money, or they'll say like, hey, I have this great cryptocurrency investing platform that I'd like you to check out. And they start sending them these fake returns. Like, here, I put $1,000 and I turned it into $3,000 overnight, and it's these fake PDFs and fake pictures showing all these returns on cryptocurrency investments. And they'll convince them to put a little bit of money here and there, and then they'll send them a fake picture of how well their money's doing. And it goes on and on. There's been cases where people have emptied their checking accounts, and after that's not done, they're convinced to go mortgage their house and invest more because their returns are so good. So now they're hooked. And again, like, it's the little deposits that get you comfortable, and then you've already done that and you've convinced yourself that this is a good thing, and you're just going to make that larger deposit. And once you realize you're starting to get scammed, you get a little hesitant, and now you start asking for some of your money back. And we've seen like, okay, cool, we can give you your money back, but first you got to pay the taxes and fees, and then they just like grab just that little extra bit out of you, little bit more. Again, it's important to be in touch with your family. You have older brothers and sisters that they say they just met somebody online, their mood's changed, they're happier, like they're kind of they met somebody new. Maybe kind of get in their business and find out who they are. You have any pictures? Can I see their profile? And just kind of do some investigation and see if you can kind of snap them out of it. Because those can really go on. They invest a lot of time in each one of their victims. So it's almost like a spell. Like, it's very hard to convince somebody otherwise that they've been fooled for so long. So it's just got to kind of watch out for your friends and family if they've got a new love interest that they've never met before. It's really important to kind of try to get involved.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up, because just yesterday I watched one where this woman was a friend of Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac, and she lost $1 million of her own money. And the guy who she thought she was dating, and who she did to the almost very end believe was still this guy, and not a guy in Lagos, Nigeria, which is where he turned out to be.
Right.
She honestly believed it, and every time he offered her a story, it was more depressing than the one before. He fell off an oil rig. He got arrested at the airport. So emotion is a big part of this, isn't it, John? Where they really try to hook you and think like, oh man, this person's going through hell. I have to do what they ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of mixed between like the romance scams and the confidence scams. Like, one of the big ones are women who meet, military men overseas, and they're sent pictures of the guy in his uniform, and they believe that they're talking to a guy from the military, and he's stuck overseas, so he needs some help to move some of his money back and forth, or he found something overseas and needs your help getting the money to his family. And like, so, there's times where there's people that are losing everything, and there's times where the people are assisting in other people losing everything, if that makes sense. So, we had a case, person meets somebody from the military, he needs help to move money. They're accepting these deposits from all over the place, from probably different victims all over the globe. And, this person thinks she's helping her boyfriend by withdrawing this money and going to buy money orders and then sending it into the mail, sending it through the mail, kind of all over the country. And that's just kind of how that whole cog in the machine thing that I mentioned before works. There's just layers and layers of this stuff, and people are either the direct targets or they're just a piece of the puzzle to, do harm elsewhere.
Remarkable. As we wrap this up here, I guess the last thing I want to ask you, and if this is a repeat, you forgive me. I guess, what would your best practice advice be to anybody who is out there and who may be the potential victim of a scam? What would you say is the best thing for them to do if they're conceiving that this is their situation?
Well, let's even take a step back before that. Maybe since we're wrapping up, let's take a couple precautions, right? Let's not purchase gift cards for anything other than gifts for family. Let's not visit any of these cryptocurrency ATM machines. Let's get strong password managers. So a good point I wanted to make today is the importance of using one of these third-party password managers, whether there's tons out there. I've tested a company called Bitward, and I've tested a company called Proton Pass. They're all excellent. I don't know what my passwords are for anything, and that's what's really important. Is you don't want to use the same password for anything. You want to try to have different email addresses or logins for everything, because all of these companies out there, they're vulnerable to breaches, right? So, like LinkedIn had a big breach years ago where usernames and passwords and people's names were put out there, and there are people that save all those. They buy them, they sell them to people. So once your email and your password's out there, it's some vulnerable thing gets breached, but you use the same email address and password for something. Well, it's going to be easy for them to just go and test those out on everything else and get into your bank information or those things that are supposed to be more secure, but it's only secure as your username and password is. So one of these password managers are great. So they can actually change your username for every service that you go to. You can have a different email login for everything that you use, and everything will just automatically get forwarded to your regular email. And this manager manages all of that. So you could have different logins and different passwords for every single service you use, and you don't even need to know what those are, because your password manager is a browser extension or like a standalone app on your phone. And whenever you have to log into one of those things, it just imports it for you. It does it automatically. Wow. So it gets you logged in, and you really only need to secure that one password for that password manager. And that's really important, because if one of those things get breached or stolen, all of your other identities online are protected. Your other bank accounts are protected. Your other social media accounts. And aside from the password managers, just be really skeptical. I got 2 emails this week to my personal email address that had my name on it from Facebook, saying that my security code was being sent to me, and if you didn't send this, it's a good idea to change your password. So click here to change your password. No. Right. So if you don't expect that, you should be skeptical. Like it happens with banking, it happens with social media. To check the email address that it's coming from. It turns out I clicked it. It said Facebook. When you click through, it wasn't Facebook. So it was a phishing email. But now you go in there and you have to put your old password in to change it to your new password. And now you're basically just putting your password for your Facebook account into this form that is just going to be used to access your Facebook account. And then guess what? Your Facebook account's going to get taken over, and then you're going to be posting listings for rentals that people are going to be shopping and getting scammed through Zelle. Like it's just like everyone just needs to try their best to protect their online identities to kind of prevent being a piece of this puzzle.
My God, I guess I'm clueless. The extent of this is so vast. I mean, do you see it every day? Just about, like, do you get a scam email or something every day, or is it not?
Oh yeah, a text message, a scam email. I mean, and just the reports that come across my desk that we're following up on. It's very widespread, and the Kearny Police Department takes investigating these very seriously. I take investigating these very seriously, and that's why it's important to get out here and educate everybody the best we can. So if people see like just how prevalent this is, it's important to keep a closer eye on your family and friends and kind of talk about this and, just be aware that it's happening. I see it on Facebook, the local forums, and people see when there's a shady post and they call it out, and it's great. Like, people are starting to get educated. They see when there's something that's not right, and they're making other people aware of it. There was a big thing a while ago where Taylor Swift tickets were being sold, and that was a huge fraud on the Facebook groups, and people realized that was no good, and they were calling it out as they saw it, and so it's working. We're educating people, and so the more we can get out there and do that, the better off we are. Because we just want people to hold on to their hard-earned money. It's the people work very hard for saving, and they work very hard to earn this money, and it could just all disappear in the blink of an eye if we're not careful.
Is there anything else that you can think of that maybe we didn't get to? I don't want to leave this incomplete because it's so important for everybody. It's okay if we have.
Yeah, no, it's time is very important. Just because the legal processes that we have to go through to get to the answer sometimes takes a long time. So, every day that you wait to make this report, and, there could be, a certain level of embarrassment if you've fallen victim to one of these scams, but we have to get that report as soon as we can so that we can, try to make the best effort we can to make a recovery, at least of some part of the money that was lost. And also too, for tracking purposes, just time is very important. Like, we got to get the reports in. We got to get our police report done. We have to get you referred to that ic3.gov to make that report, just so we can make the best effort we can to try to have a good resolution.
Detective John Fabula, I'm so glad we were able to do this. We've been planning it for a while, and I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you, John, very much for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great.